Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another Sports Stuff video. Today, we are talking about a Jets roster change, my newest addition to the series of bad teams, and how a very brief, very, long-term overview looks like. You guys know in the offseason, I do my offseason plans both before the draft and then after the draft. I love doing that, but I get the itch during the season, and these bad teams that have a lot of draft capital and a lot of interesting moves they can make. I like to go through mid-season, talk about it in a very broad view. I do not go in depth with like the numbers on the contract, breaking down why I would draft a certain guy where. I don't go that deep into it. I don't go deep into schemes. It's just overview. So if you guys do enjoy this, please go back to my 2025 offseason series where I did the offseason plan of every single team. That you can get more of a more day-to-day minutia, going deep into depth charts, deep into scheme fits of where I think guys should land. So if you guys enjoy, please like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into the video. Jets roster change mid-season. So what is the goal for this roster change? I am on the wrong screen. There we go. What is the goal? I want to find a franchise quarterback in either the 26 or the 27 draft. So every move I need to make needs to be, can I find that guy in these drafts? Am I in a position to draft them, a position to trade for them, or a position to trade up in the draft for them? That's the goal. And to be honest with you, I think the Jets do have a franchise quarterback in the 2026 draft. It's just how can we get them, and are we going to get them? The next goal is to re-sign key young pieces on both sides, on both offense and defense. Our number one goal, honestly, needs to be to keep the young pieces on this team as much as we can. Next is to build a culture that can withstand losing, because right now I feel like Aaron Glenn's actually doing a pretty solid job of keeping the culture in place, but Quinnen Williams behind closed doors was asking for a trade for multiple seasons. Sauce Gardner kind of gave up on the season already, so we need to build a culture that can withstand losing, and I do think Aaron Glenn is the guy for that. Next is to develop picks from the haul we received at the trade deadline. So that's multiple first-round picks, multiple day 2 picks for Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner. We now need to find talent and develop that talent quickly. Because while I do think this could be a multi-year rebuild, Aaron Glenn doesn't have 5 years, right? This GM doesn't have 5 years. They got a good 3 to 4 years at the max with this team, because the Jets are a very, very involved ownership team. Woody Johnson loves to get involved, so I do worry that they're not going to get the full 5 years. If they don't hit within the next 2 seasons, they're going to be out of here. So we need to develop picks quickly from the haul that we got. And I need to ensure Tanner Eggstrand is our offensive guy that we need moving forward. Because while, week 1 with the Jets looked amazing, Justin Fields is obviously not the answer. Is the issues on offense more Justin Fields, or is it more Tanner Eggstrand? So that's why, that's going to be a goal for the 2026 season, is once we get a different quarterback in there, is can this quarterback, do all the things that Jared Goff was doing in Detroit, in New England, in New York. So that's going to be the final goal, is to ensure Tanner Eggstrand is the guy moving forward on offense. So let's go to the next screen. So who to cut and who to trade? Only one guy. Obviously I would have said Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner. The only guy I think they need to trade now is Jermaine Johnson. Unfortunately, Jermaine Johnson isn't that guy. Coming out of Iowa State, no, that's Will McDonald. Jermaine Johnson, I really liked. I was a big fan of Jermaine Johnson coming out. I cannot remember what college he was going to, but he was a first-round pick in my mind. The Jets got him. I thought he'd be really good right away. He hasn't developed. And this season, with the true starting snaps, he only has 3 sacks. While Will McDonald is doing his own thing with like 8 sacks already this season. Will McDonald is the guy in this defensive line that we need to build around, that pass rushing unit. Jermaine Johnson is in his 4th season. Going into 2026 will be his 4th season. So he's gonna be needing a contract this offseason. I am not giving him that. There's no way I'm paying Jermaine Johnson any amount of money. So I want to flip Jermaine Johnson to a team that needs an edge rusher for a day 2, a late day 2, early day 3 pick. Because I do think he still has talent, but he just doesn't fit the New York Jets timeline. And with the way he's developing, it's not working out. As much as I like Jermaine Johnson, he's not going to work out in New York. Let's get into another team that could use an edge rusher. And one of genuine skill. Just, we're not ready to pay him. We don't have the capital to pay him for what he's going to demand. So, yeah, Jermaine Johnson is the one guy I would cut or trade. Who to keep? Number one priority is to keep Garrett Wilson. He's a franchise star. He's the guy that we need to make sure stays happy and retires in New York Jets. All rookie contract offensive linemen. That includes guys like Armin Membo, Olu Fashanu, Joe Tippmann. While I like Josh Myers, we'll see if he's able to stay. He's currently on the expiring contract. But Joe Tippmann, Membo, Fashanu, Max Mitchell's technically on his rookie contract still. All those guys need to stay. Next is Will McDonald. He's emerging this year as the star pass rusher for his defense. Will McDonald has to get a second contract, and he has to be talked about as a New York Jet for the next 4 years. Breece Hall, I would like to retain, but I don't think he wants to stay. I think he wants out. After the trade deadline, he was very obviously upset that he wasn't traded, and I do think he wants out, so I would like to keep Breece Hall if he's okay with it. I am not franchise tagging Breece Hall, but if you're like a multi-year extension, I'm going to do it, but I just don't think it's going to happen. And the last thing I'm going to keep is every single defender on contract, whether it's a rookie or a second or third contract, we're going to keep every single defender that we can, because losing Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams at once, that's a massive hit to the defense. So I want to keep as many defenders on this defense as I can to maintain somewhat of a winning path forward, if you know what I'm catching. So salary cap before any trades or cuts, we are positive $99 million in 2026, and in 2027 we'll be positive $209 million. So we are entering this rebuild with a lot of money that we can spend and a lot of draft capital. What could go wrong? Austin cuts or trades. I'm going to be trading Jermaine Johnson to the San Francisco 49ers for a 2027 third round pick, not a 2026, a 2027 third round pick. I'm doing this because, one, the 49ers lost both Nick Bosa and Mikael Williams to a Achilles or ACL injury this season. So in 2026, they're going to be coming back from injury. They're not going to be the same guys they were before immediately. So Jermaine Johnson gives them a guy they can build around on the defensive line. So when Nick Bosa and Mikael Williams are coming back, you don't have to come back at 100%. They can come back at 80% and ramp back up, while Jermaine Johnson can hold down the line for them at the edge rusher position. And the 49ers only have to give up a 2027 third. If it was a 2026 pick, it'd probably be a fourth or a fifth. But because we're saying, hey, it can be a 27 third, so you have this draft to try and reload on defense, give us a 27 third, we'll call it even. I think you can do that. So Jermaine Johnson, thank you for your time in New York. Go to San Francisco, be a genuine starter under that defense that is consistently really good, and maybe he can butt into something that he can't here in New York. New extensions, Josh Myers at center. I want to keep Josh Myers. I want to keep this offensive line together. I think it's a really good offensive line, and I just think that Justin Fields isn't taking advantage of that. So I'm giving him a 2-year, $11 million deal, kind of like the Newsel deal from Atlanta. He has a $3.5 million signing bonus, $7.5 million in salary. Guaranteed is $7 million, I believe it was. So about 70% guaranteed. That's a pretty good contract for Josh Myers. It's short. It's basically a 1-year deal. If he doesn't really work out under Tanner Eggstrand in year 2 under this system, we can cut him, save $4 million. We're good to go. Then I'm going to tender Max Mitchell on an original round free agent tender. So if someone wanted to sign Max Mitchell to any contract, they would have to give up a 4th round pick, compensatory pick, to the New York Jets. So either we get Max Mitchell for a good number at 3.4, or we get a 4th round pick in this year's draft. That's really good in my opinion. And same with John Mechie. I'm going to do the exact same tender because we just traded for him. We're going to get a $3.4 million cap hit for a starting wide receiver in this offense. And if a team wants to sign him to a contract, they have to give up a 2nd round pick. And there's no way anyone is doing that. So this is kind of guaranteeing that we have a wide receiver 2 or a wide receiver 3, however you want to rank Adonai Mitchell and John Mechie. We're going to have that guy next season. Then I'm going to tender Juwan Briggs, another D tackle that Aaron Glenn traded for. Undrafted free agent last year with the Browns. Played really good year 1. And this year, this D tackle got really, really crowded in Cleveland. So he gets traded in New York. He is now starting for the New York Jets in his 2nd year of an undrafted free agent career. He is already starting, and he's played pretty well. In the game against the Browns, he played pretty well. The game last week, he played pretty well. I'm excited what Juwan Briggs can do in the NFL. And I think Aaron Glenn really likes him, and he's going to continue to start the rest of the season. And that's something they can build as a building block as a D tackle. So those are my 4 guys I'm going to be extending in this offseason. No one else. Everyone else can walk. So the salary cap after the trades and extensions is going to be $87.2 million. Again, still over $200 million in 2027. So this is a very good number to work in when we go to free agency and guys that we want to sign to the draft and free agency. So our draft capital now, post that Jermaine Johnson trade and all the trades we did during the season. In 2026, we're going to have 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, no thirds, 2 fourths, no fifths, 2 sixths, and 3 sevenths. It is not 7 sevenths. It is 3 sevenths. Totaling 15 draft picks. Wait, 2, 4, 6, 8. It'd be 11. 11 draft picks. What the heck? Why did I put 7? That's going to be 11 draft picks we're going to have in 2026. And in 2027, 2 firsts, 1 second, 2 thirds, a 4th, a 5th, a 6th, and a 7th. That is 8 draft picks. That is also wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wow. I cannot count. So we have 11 draft picks in 26 and 9 draft picks in 27. But in 27, that is 5 within the first 2 days. In 26, we have 4 in the first 2 days. So this is a lot of draft capital at the top end of the drafts. We got to make sure that we capitalize on it. So my projected 2026 draft class. Oh, I haven't got to that point yet. So positions to draft in 26 or 27. Number 1 has got to be quarterback. Number 2, in my opinion, is going to be corner. Number 3 is safety. Number 4 is D-line. Number 5 is wide receiver. And I'll go over it once we get to those parts of this video, why those, it's in that order, right? Obviously quarterback, obviously corner, once you let go of Sauce Gardner. Safety and D-line, some people would say D-line would be higher above safety. I don't think so. And wide receiver does make the list for long-term reasons. So this is my potential draft in 2026. So I am going to be doing a trade-up because I do think the Jets are going to win more games than the Titans and the Browns and probably the Raiders. So as you can see, we're going to trade up from number 5 to number 1. That is the current draft order. So what I did is from number 5 to number 1, all we have to do is give up number 32 we got from the Colts to the Sauce Gardner trade. So that's going to be a high first round pick. Oh, sorry, a low first round pick. So that's all we really give up. Then we're going to trade up. Oh, sorry, we're going to trade down. Sorry, the Titans are going to trade up from 65 to 44. So they trade up from the 3rd round to the 2nd rounds. Then they're going to trade up from 179 to 139. They trade up 40 draft picks. That is 2 rounds they move up. Then they get 2 7th round picks out of out of kindness or doing business with us. Then in 27, we're going to move up from the 3rd round from the 5th round to the 3rd round. So most of this trade for the Titans is them trading up in the draft and we're sliding back. But we get to number 1 and they get a 1st round pick, 2 7ths, and everything else they're trading up in the draft. So the Jets, the only picks that we're actually losing is 32 and 2 7ths. That's the only real picks that we're losing. Everything else, we're just moving up and down the board. So I think that's a pretty good trade for both sides. The Titans, they get more draft capital in a year. They need to get as many guys as they can in this roster. And for the Jets, they move up and they get their quarterback. And they still have multiple picks this year. They only give up 2 7ths that aren't going to make the team and a 1st round pick that does suck, but you use it to get your franchise quarterback. And I do think Fernando Mendoza is a perfect fit for this Tanner Eggstrand system. I see a lot of Jared Goff and Fernando. This dude is a true pocket passing quarterback. He can deliver passes on time. He gets it in the tight windows. I'm a big fan of what Fernando Mendoza is doing at Indiana. I think he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. Do I have him as my number 1 quarterback? I don't. I have Ty Simpson as my number 1 quarterback, but I think Fernando Mendoza fits that Jared Goff mold more. And this team, this offense and defensive coordinators and coaching staff know what to do with Jared Goff. And I am very excited to see what Fernando Mendoza can do in New York, because I do predict this is going to be the move no matter what. New York trades up or they pick at number 1, and they get Fernando Mendoza. Then in the 2nd round, Keith Abney. I've been having Keith Abney as a 1st round pick. If you go back and watch my mock draft from about 2 weeks ago, I have Keith Abney as a 1st round pick. I think he's going to be a really good corner in the NFL. Great size, great outside corner ability. I think Aaron Glenn would love his usefulness in both zone and man corner. He always attacks the ball while not giving up big plays. He's my guy in the 1st round. I think he's going to be a really good corner in the NFL. And I think Aaron Glenn would love the type of mold that he has. Then in the 3rd round, Dominique Orange, again, he's coming in. He's going to be that run-stopping D tackle. Him and Jawan Briggs on 1st and 2nd down is going to be lethal, because right now it's Harrison Phillips and Jawan Briggs. I don't dislike Harrison Phillips. He's kind of one of those guys that just bounce around the league. But I like him as a pass rusher. And Dominic Orange and Jawan Briggs, they're going to come in and stuff up the run lanes. I'm going to be a big fan of what that pairing could do in the future. Then at 105, grabbing Kaytron Allen. Him and Nick Singleton are a really good running back duo. I think Kaytron Allen gets, a little overlooked because of how good Nick Singleton is. But I think easily in the NFL, he can be a key part of a rotation of a running back room. And with Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, and Kaytron Allen, I'm a big fan of that running back room. I think they all kind of contribute in different ways in the run game. Then at 179, I'll grab Nick Harbor, the wide receiver from South Carolina. South Carolina this year has been really disappointing. And Nick Harbor, while he has his faults, he's a big body, big playmaker. And that's something I think the Jets can really use. You have Garrett Wilson be that more possession, big, deep threat guy that is just, you can target him 12 or 13 times a game. John Mechie and Adonai Mitchell. Adonai is a true deep threat. John Mechie's a 1st down chain mover. Nick Harbor can do all that. He's 6'4", 220 pounds, can run almost every route in the book, but his calling card is a deep ball. and his big frame and his speed, a really good mixture. I had him as a first round pick entering this year. He's kind of fallen off again, not really producing. He looks slow. I don't know if he's hurt, or I haven't really watched a lot of South Carolina because of how bad they've been. Lenore Sellers is probably going back to college, so that's not really an option at quarterback. But Nick Harbor, I think, can be a really good wide receiver in the NFL, and I think this could be their Jameson Williams, right? This could be their big body, deep threat who can run, a good amount of routes really well, but his calling card is being the speedster and the big body. Next, I'm going to grab Parker Brailsford. A shot in the dark at center. Josh Myers is only on a 2-year extension. Parker has been a center for the last 3 years at Alabama. Their starting center for the last 3 years. That's something you can definitely talk about. And if you watch the film on Ty Simpson, a lot of those, middle of the field passes, Parker's blocking really well for him. Not a lot of hands in his face. I think Parker's good enough to make an NFL roster as a 6th round pick. Then Emmanuel Pregnon, again, he's having a great year in Oregon. I think he can easily replace why am I blanking on his name? John Simpson at guard if asked to immediately. But for me, he needs to get a little bit more weight in his frame. So at guard, he can be a backup to whoever comes in and starts at guard. Then in the 7th, grabbing Bud Clark. I love the safeties that can play strong safety or free safety. I love it. Not a lot of guys can do it when it comes to the draft time, and they always slip to the 5th, 6th, or 7th round and always make the roster because there's a reason. Having a safety who can cover both strong safety and free safety duties at a palpable level is an elite talent, and Bud Clark is one of those guys this year, just like Trey Taylor a few years ago. I love those safeties that can do both, and Bud Clark is the next reel in that film. And as you can see, gives me overall draft grade of B. I like it. You get your quarterback 1, you get a potential cornerback 1, you get a starting level D tackle, a running back that's going to play, going to be on the field year 1. You have a wide receiver that's going to be on the field year 1, and 2 shots in the dark at offensive linemen at premier schools that have started their entire career almost. And Bud Clark is someone that I'm going to have in almost every single mock draft because I think he's exactly the type of mold of a 3rd or 4th safety that you want on your team. So yeah, not too bad. And the trade, I don't think it's too bad either. You move up, you get your quarterback, and you slide down in the rest of the draft, and you don't really give up too much. Not really too much. So this is the current depth chart for the New York Jets. It's mid. I think the talent is better than what they're putting on the field. Wide receiver core is depleted. Running backs are, I don't know what's going on. Tight end is deeper, but they're not throwing the ball. Really good offensive line. Defensively, really good linebacker core right now. I really like their linebackers, but we got to move on, right? We got to move on to the next year because you're currently only at 2 wins. You got to improve. So here's my projected 2026 depth chart. You still got Garrett Wilson. You still got John Mechie. You still got Adonai Mitchell. That is your 3-man wide receiver starting group at game 1, without a doubt. By the way, Graham Gano is the rookie. So, this is Nick Harbor right here. So, you got that Nick Harbor. I will then go out and sign Jahan Dotson. I think him and John Mechie have a lot of similarities. Jahan Dotson, his rookie year, was that, possession deep threat. I wouldn't say he's a deep threat. I'd definitely say more of a possession receiver with more yak ability than deep threat ability. But I think him and John Mechie play very, very similar games, and I would really like to have him as a backup with John Mechie in case of injury. Noah Brown, true, basically only a deep threat. He can be backing up Adonai Mitchell. That can be that's the 2 guys that you want as your deep threats, with Nick Harbor as the wild card wide receiver 6. I think Arian Smith and Irvin Charles both make the roster still. I'm big fans of what they were when they were coming out of the draft. Arian Smith as well. I think he has returner ability, so he's gonna make the roster for sure. Then at tackle, again, we tender Max Mitchell, so he's on the roster. Olu Fashanu. I think they go out and sign Ed Ingram for the Texans. Yes, the Texans have a really bad offensive line this year, but Ed Ingram, he's putting some, positive tape on there. Not the worst starting guard in the world, but I definitely think, he'd be the weakest link on this offensive line. But for a really good offensive line, Ed Ingram being the worst link, that's not a bad thing. Then at center, again, right here, you got Parker as Graham Gano. Then you got the Oregon guard right here, Josh Myers, Joe Tippmann, nothing changes there. Armin Membo, again, not drafting a tackle. You have Max Mitchell to be that swing tackle, left tackle, or right tackle. If someone gets hurt, he just step in and start for them. Tight end, Mason Taylor. I did not bring back Jeremy Ruckert. I think same thing. I just don't think he wants to be in New York. They drafted Mason Taylor over him. They signed Jelani Woods. They honestly don't want Jeremy Ruckert playing a whole lot. So I think he's going to be elsewhere in the NFL. But I'm going to sign Daniel Bellinger. As much as I like Jelani Woods as a athletic freak, I think Daniel Bellinger has shown in New York with the Giants that he's a true receiving threat and a good run blocker. So him and Mason Taylor is going to be the tight end duo moving forward. Maybe like a 2-year deal you give Daniel Bellinger. But then at quarterback, you have Fernando Mendoza. You could cut Justin Fields, But I think there is something you could say having Justin Fields as a backup quarterback, as a veteran. While he's not the best quarterback starting, I think him in the room is not a bad idea. You already paid him for next year. Might as well have him on the roster. Brady Cook, I do think you could run a 3-quarterback system, have Brady Cook on the roster as that, third quarterback, just in break case of emergency. You have him inactive every week. Then at running back, I'm going to give Braylon Allen a chance to start. I think Braylon Allen could be a really good running back in the NFL. Injuries have kind of hampered him. Breece Hall's kind of hampered him. So Braylon Allen is going to get the full starting job next year. Isaiah Davis, be more that third down back, receiving threat. And then obviously you have the running back that we drafted, who I'm blanking on his name. Kaytron Allen. Yep, Kaytron Allen. He will be the third running back. Again, solid running back room. Not really a star running back at this moment, but Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, and Kaytron Allen, that's a solid running back duo, a trio, sorry. Then at edge, Will McDonald comes back. Again, he's the premier edge rusher. Right here is going to be Dominique Orange and then Juwan Briggs. That's my starting D-tackle room entering next year. You're going to keep Harrison Phillips. You're going to keep Leonard Taylor. I like this D-tackle room. Harrison Phillips is a veteran who can do it all. And these three guys with their, Leonard Taylor more of a pass rusher. Juwan and Dominique Orange, their calling cards being run stopping. Then at edge, I'm going to spend some money. I'm going to get Al-Quadin Muhammad from the Detroit Lions. Aaron Glenn, I think he's a dip multiple times into the Lions system in free agency to come over to New York and kind of establish a culture. Al-Quadin Muhammad has been a really good edge rusher opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. I want him to come to New York, stabilize the edge room with Will McDonald, and he can be that veteran starter on the defensive ends. Then I also can bring over David Ojabo from the Ravens. They traded Odafe Owe. So, Ojabo and Owe kind of came to the league together. I just don't really think Ojabo's really done anything with the Baltimore Ravens. His 2 injuries to start his career, 2 season-ending injuries, definitely didn't help him. They hampered him. But, bring him over to New York. I liked him coming out of the draft. I had him as a first-round pick. He goes in the second. Coming over to New York, he gets more opportunity. He'd be that true third edge because Eric Watts, Tyler Barron, Braden McGregor haven't really shown anything in their rookie and sophomore seasons. So David Ojabo, come over and be that, on a 1-year deal. Be that third guy to kind of kickstart if Muhammad or McDonald are on the bench. I trust David Ojabo to be a starter in the NFL. Then I'm going to sign over Quay Walker to be my Sam linebacker. Don't need him to be a Mike. Let him be on the strong side. Let him come over, cover over the left tackle. I think he can do that job for you. Jamie Sherwood, he is staying. I let Quincy Williams walk. I think with his brother getting traded and not really liking New York, I think Quincy Williams, the last 2 years, kind of fallen off a little bit. He had a really good game, though. After the trade deadline, this last game he just played, he had a really good game, but I do think he'll take his talents elsewhere, because it's kind of like, you trade my brother, I'm in the doghouse with Aaron Glenn, I don't really want to be here anymore. But a guy who's not in the doghouse is Alex Anzalone. I think Alex Anzalone is absolutely going to be a New York Jet in the offseason. There's no way Alex Anzalone and Jack Campbell will be on the Detroit Lions next year. One of them has to go. And Jack Campbell, he's a first-round pick by Brad Holmes. He's younger. He's going to be cheaper than Alex Anzalone, next year. So I think he's going to be the one that stays, and Alex Anzalone does walk. And, walk right into Aaron Glenn's office. You're going to be the green dot for his new defense, and I think Alex Anzalone is the exact guy they want over the weak side of the offensive line. He's going to be able to demon in this 4-3 defense. Him, Jamie Sherwood, and Quay Walker, not only is it athletic, really good run stoppers and good coverage guys. It's the entire package in that linebacker room. Then at safety, I'm going to let Dean Clark and Malachi Moore both start. Right now, you have Andre Cisco and Tony Adams starting, but I think Malachi Moore can take on more of a role in year 2. And Dean Clark, him coming out of Fresno State, I was a fan of him in coming out of the draft. Again, one of those guys who in college was a strong safety, free safety hybrid. I'm having him start free safety. Then, yet again, we have Bud Clark is going to be that free safety, strong safety backup. So now you only need 3 safeties because you have Bud Clark and Dean Clark who can cover both positions, and Malachi Moore slots in at that strong safety role. Then at corner, Azarius Thomas. Again, I had him as a really high draft pick in this year's past draft. He's really good. I'm happy that he got into a team that is letting him start immediately. I'm going to bring over Starling Thomas from the Arizona Cardinals to be that backup. He's a guy that has a lot of starting experience, a lot of playing time under his belt. And coming out of UAB, I thought Arizona got a steal out of him. They kind of drafted 10 corners in the last 3 years, so he's kind of gotten buried on the depth chart. Come to New York, you're going to get some playing time. Then at right corner, again, I forgot the guy's name who I drafted. Keith Abney, he's starting day 1. He's starting on the outside. There's zero doubt that Keith Abney, if he's drafted here, will be starting over Brandon Stephens. I'm going to keep Brandon Stephens, though as a veteran voice in this very young secondary room. I want to keep Brandon Stephens in that. He's a fine backup corner safety hybrid, but I do not want him starting. Then Quantez Stiggers is going to stay as that nickel. He took it over this once Michael Carter got traded. Quantez Stiggers is going to be that guy for me. So yeah, that's my projected depth chart for 2026. You got a mixture of veterans like Al-Quadin Muhammad, Alex Anzalone. You keep Brandon Stephens, but then you get a lot of jump at rookies and young talent, whether it's David Ojabo, Quay Walker coming over and getting more of a role with a different team, or it's Dominique Clark who you draft, or it's Bud Clark who you draft, or Keith Abney on defense. Then offensively, you get your quarterback one, you keep Justin Fields as a backup, you kind of reinvest in this young offensive line, making sure it stays how it is. You reinvest in your wide receiver core, because you're seeing right now, with no Garrett Wilson, John Mechie and Adonai Mitchell are not wide receiver ones. So you get Garrett Wilson back, you have John Mechie, Adonai Mitchell, you invest in Nick Harbor, and you get young shots in Jahan Dotson and a more proven deep threat in Noah Brown than Adonai Mitchell. It kind of rounds out the team. The biggest question mark probably would still be my safety room and my running back room, but there's no perfect team in the NFL. There's going to be question marks in every single NFL team. So running back and safety would be probably the rooms that I would invest more money in, or maybe higher draft capital. But yeah, that is my Jets roster change mid-season, right? Obviously, once the offseason happens, I'm going to go from pick number 1 to pick number 32, doing offseason plans where it's more in-depth. So if you guys enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Peace and bye.